Yeah, so I think there was some issue in the internet, but I think things are now working fine. Okay, so tonight I'm sitting here with a new book as I've uploaded two videos on the Stoic philosophy covered by, the books were written by Seneca, letters were written by Seneca. And these days I'm going through a lot of philosophy. The books I'm finding on my own shelf, finding a lot of time. As you guys know, we are in a crisis. So yeah, today I'm reading Friedrich Nietzsche, The Birth of Tragedy. Again, I have from the Penguin Classics. So I'm going to read certain excerpts from this book, and this guy Nietzsche was a very recent philosopher. He was during the time, what to say, 1872. The first edition of Birth of Tragedy was published on the 2nd January 1872. So yeah, he was quite of a pessimist, what to say. A pessimist is somebody who sees a negative thing in all the situations that he faces. And so he believed in self-criticism, constant self-criticism, and of the self and of the world. So yeah, I'll just read out the attempt at a self-criticism which Nietzsche is talking about. Yeah. So in this live, I'll go as far as I can. So it's going to be a long live. Yeah. So whatever it was that prompted this questionable book, it must have been a most important and attractive question, and a deeply personal one. This is born out of by the time in which, in spite of which it was written, the exciting time of the Franco-Prussian War of 1870 to 71. While the thunders of the Battle of Worth rolled away over Europe, the brooding lover of puzzles, who was to be the father of this book, sat in some corner of the Alps, brooded and puzzled, and hence both concerned and unconcerned, writing down his thought about the Greeks. The kernel of the strange and somewhat inaccessible book, to which this belated preface or postscript will now be added. A few weeks later, and he himself was to be found beneath the walls of Metz, still struggling with the question mark that he had appended to the supposed cheerfulness of the Greeks and Greek art. Until at last, in a month of the most profound suspense, when peace was under debate in Versailles, he too made peace with himself and slowly convalescing from an illness contracted in the field gave definite form to the birth of tragedy out of the spirit of music. Out of music? Music and tragedy? Greeks and the music of tragedy? Greeks and the pessimistic art form? The most accomplished, most beautiful, most universally envied race of mankind, those most capable of seducing us into life, they were the ones who needed tragedy or even more art. What for? Greek art? So up till now, he's Friedrich Nietzsche is introspecting over the Greek philosophies. He himself was a German uh, by birth, and he's trying to contemplate the very essence of Greek art. And out of that also he's seeing um the pessimism that brooded, that emerged from from its philosophy. Go further. The reader might guess where the big question mark of the value of existence was raised. Is pessimism inevitably the sign of decline, decadence, waywardness, of varied, enfeebled instincts? As once it was with the Hindus, as it seems to be with us modern Europeans. Is there a pessimism of strength, an intellectual predilection for what is hard, terrible, evil, problematic in existence, arising from well being, overflowing health, the abundance of existence? Is it perhaps possible to suffer from overabundance, a tempting and challenging, sharp eyed courage that craves the terrible as one craves the enemy, the worthy enemy against whom it can test its strength, wishing to learn from it the meaning of fear? What is the meaning for those Greeks of the best, strongest, most courageous age of the tragic myth, and of the tremendous phenomena of the Dionysiac, and of the tragedy that was born from it? And on the other hand, that which brought about the death of tragedy, the Socratism of morality, the dialectics modesty, and cheerfulness of a theoretical man. Could not that very Socratism be a symptom of decline, fatigue, infection, and the anarchical dissolution of the instincts? And might the Greek cheerfulness of the later Greeks be nothing but the glow of sunset? The Epicurean will against pessimism merely a precaution of the afflicted? And science itself, our own science, what does all of science mean as a symptom of life? Might the scientific approach be nothing but fear of flight from pessimism, a subtle form of self defense against the truth? And morally speaking, something like cowardice or falsehood. Amorally speaking, a piece of cunning. Oh, Socrates, Socrates, was that perhaps your secret? Oh, secretive ironist, was that perhaps your irony? Wow, wow. I mean, who can think of an illness from overabundance? Like, if you're blessed with all the comforts of life and you have nothing to really worry about in life because you're able to ensure the essentials, the needs of your body and your mind and your spirit. So he's questioning, like, can it happen that a certain form of sickness arise, a certain disease mindset arise from that particular lifestyle in which you have everything, in which you don't have anything to worry about. Your safety and security is it's ensured, and you have a circle of friends or family that you can be with, and you have actualized your principles to the very best. As what there is this triangle, Maslow's hierarchy triangle. In psychology, we read about it, even in psychiatry, even in medicine, and people who um, are into introspection and retrospection in a manner that they want to be better. And that talks about, the very base of this triangle consists of the physiological needs. For the ones who know about this, for the ones who don't, they can search it on. It's Maslow's. Abraham Maslow was the scientist, and he gave this psychologist, and he gave this principle in a form of a triangle. So any individual first tries to ensure the physiological needs. That's the base of this triangle. And then when these physiological needs are met, then he moves up towards safety and security, securing these, resources, feeling safe in it. And when he feels safe and secure, then he is able to focus on the relationships that he shares with his family predominantly to begin with, and then eventually the friend circles, and then so on and so forth. Once he has established this friends and family structure, he moves up, or she moves up the ladder of the triangle, and in which he or she thinks about morals and principles and ideas, uh, the culture-based traditions that he or she might be following. हिंदी में संस्कार कहते हैं उसको. I'll resume in English. And then the individual moves up the ladder to self-actualization, which is the principle of merging yourself with nature around, feeling a part of the bigger picture, and functioning in sync with nature. So yeah. So in that principle, I'm trying to correlate that principle with what Nietzsche is saying here. That is it possible that when you are in that self-actualizing state, you enter in a form of a sickness from that overabundance, or what to say, from that accomplished mindset or accomplished physiology, complete functioning. And it's a wonderful thought here, that where does this come from? Is there a particular form of fear that arises when you achieve everything, that now there's nothing to accomplish? Or is it a kind of, you're declining, your life is declining, and and you're entering into a state of senescence, into the way old age takes a toll on your body, that it doesn't allow you to move much or think much, or use yourself much. Is it kind of like that? And the words he is using from the Socratic times is decline, fatigue, infection, dissolution of instincts, where you do not, when you're not able to, feel those instincts more really. Now you're more relying on the comforts that you have, the safety, security structures that you have built, the houses that you live in, the systemic institutionalization that you are in, from the birth till the end of your life. Also, we are promoting, to the rural publics, or to the villages, or to the tribal populations. We are promoting them to come and adopt ways of the urban structures of safety and security, just excessively personal experiences, all close to the bunk, perhaps for artists who also independent, defiantly self-reliant, even where it seems to yield to authority in respect of its own. In short, a first book, even in the worst sense of the artist, but art under the lens. So from the, and we are tried to be explained that what this equation really means. But we don't really know what the personal experience Albert Einstein himself went through. And even to understand that, we go to, we resort to movies, we resort to books written to highlight what his brain worked like, or how his personal life was like, or what were the struggles that he went through. So we are taking the help of art is trying to criticize that. Not like stuff now in a better manner. Stuff now in a better manner. So I don't know which one is better. I was before this because today I find it an impossible book. He's talking about science. Still, he's talking about science. Badly written, clumsy, and embarrassing. Its images frenzied and confused, sentimental, in some places saccharine sweet, to the point of desire for logical purity. A book for initiates, baptized in the name of music, and who are related from the first by their common and rare experiences of art. A shibboleth for first cousins in Artibus, an arrogant and fanatical book that wished from the start to exclude the profanum vulgus of the educated even more than the people. But a book which, as its impact has shown and continues to show, has a strange knack of seeking out its fellow revelers and enticing them onto new secret paths and dancing places. What found expression here, in any case, and this was conceded with both curiosity and distaste, was a strange voice, the disciple of a still unknown God, disguised beneath the scholar's hood, beneath the heaviness, the bad manners of the with strange experiences, mysteries to which the name God. Perhaps I would now be more discreet, less eloquent in discussing such a difficult psychological question, origin of tragedy among the Greeks. One fundamental question is the Greek relation to pain, the level of sensitivity. Was that relation constant? Or did it radically change? The question of whether their ever more intense craving for beauty, for festivals, entertainments, new cults grew out of pain? If this is indeed so, the Pericles or Thucydides would lead us to believe as much in his great funeral oration. What would be the origin of the opposite craving that occurred earlier in time? The craving for ugliness, the good, rigid resolve of the older Greeks for pessimism, joy, overflowing health, excessive abundance. And what then would be the meaning of, physiologically speaking, of that comic art arose? The Dionysiac madness arose. Is madness not necessary of a culture as neuroses of health, of the youth and youthfulness of a people? The satire point. What experience of himself, what impulse forced the Greek to imagine the Dionysiac reveler and primeval man as a satire? And as regards the origin of the tragic chorus in those centuries when the Greek body flourished, when the Greek soul overflowed with life, might paroxysms not have been endemic? Might visions and hallucinations not have been shared by whole communities, by whole cult gatherings? And what if the Greeks, precisely in the abundance of their youth, had the will to tragedy? If they were pessimists, I'll read this again. Might visions and hallucinations not have been shared by whole communities, by whole cult gatherings? That's such a wonderful sentence this is. And what if the Greeks, precisely in the abundance of their youth, had the will to tragedy? If they were pessimists? If it was madness itself, to use a phrase of Plato's, that brought the greatest blessings upon Greece? And if conversely the Greeks, precisely at the point of their theatrical and more official theatrical and more ardent for logic and a logical interpretation of the world, theatrical and more ardent for logic and a logical interpretation of the world, and thus both more cheerful and more scientific. What then might we not assume in the face of all modern ideas and prejudices of democratic taste, theoretical utilitarianism like democracy itself, with which it is coeval, is a symptom of waning power, of approaching senescence, wow, of physiological fatigue, and precisely not pessimism? Was Epicurus an optimist precisely because he suffered? We can see what a heavy load of difficult questions this book has taken on. Let us add its most difficult question. What, under the lens of life, is the meaning of morality? My God. Oh my goodness. Wow. So according to this particular theory, um, I'll try to wrap this up. According to this particular dialogue, what Nietzsche is presenting to us in this text, somebody who is individualistically animalistic, um, somebody who thinks beyond culture, beyond traditions, somebody who thinks or he or she is what to say, wired towards, plainly simply put, survival. Somebody who's a pessimist, somebody who questions everything on the go, somebody who doesn't take anything for granted, somebody who's always looking beyond his own prejudices, beyond his own beliefs, somebody who's in the present, somebody who doesn't go back to the memories, to the conditioning that he or she has been into, is more alive, is young, is full of life. The kind of perspective that Nietzsche is putting here towards democracy is, it's a collective belief system in which we are given the comfort, in which we are given the security not to think much. Somebody has done that for you. Not to go beyond certainty, not to enter into the realm of uncertainty. We are putting the rules and regulations for you, and those rules and regulations, that system, that institution, that structure is for everybody, and everybody can be benefited if they do something, if they do things in a particular manner. And that's if they do things in a particular manner. And that's a kind of senescence that a culture faces. It's a perspective. And it's a good perspective. It's a strong perspective. It's something that makes sense, actually, that countries like the United Kingdom, for example, or European Union, they have seen their history, their culture has seen wars and various permutations of human interaction. The genetics that senescent is more old, and democracy for them makes sense because now they don't want to put that much effort into something which is simply put uncertain or unsure on a day-to-day scale. They've put down regulations and rules for day-to-day things. For democracy for them makes sense, but for a more mystic civilization such as ours, such as the Hindus or the people who lived in the subcontinent surrounded by the Indian Ocean. I'm not talking about the religion Hindu here. I'm talking about the people who stayed related to the Indian Ocean, and the people who were the mystics of the East, for example, the Chinese. Democracy for them, it's still a vague concept. It's something that they're not looking forward to it because they're filled with energies. We are filled with energies. The people of the Chinese subcontinent or the Indian subcontinent, for example, in today's scenario. The Asians, to say, let's not put it into countries. And that's why they're not being able to do justice to the concept of democracy. They're seeking dynamic values. They're seeking to evolve in this dynamic setup of chaos. It's a beautiful chaotic structure that we have in Asia per se, and we're not looking for guidelines or structures to bound us. We're looking for them for the guidelines, for rules and regulations to give some structure, yes, but we're not completely relying on them because we still feel that there is room for exploration, there's room for dialogue, there's room for arguments, for newer possibilities, for newer horizons of metaphysical thought, in which we can see or observe, or at least learn to observe beyond the physical reality that we are surrounded by. The concept of soul, the concept of a spiritual God, the concept of a creator, or a concept of nature in a manner that we are just a part of it, we are not over it, or we cannot rule it, we cannot rule nature, we cannot create a planned symbiosis. We can think, we can imagine that we can plan a form of symbiosis with nature, but nature is unpredictable. And if we try to create certain structures in order to get that sense of certainty, in order to get that sense of lack of being able to put effort into this moment and trying to predict the future and trying to predict what is going to happen. I'm not delineating things. I'm not putting things into categories that this is good or this is bad or this is right or this is wrong. No, it's not. Something exists and we're just looking at it as how this is. But like currently in this particular dialogue, I'm traveling the whole world around me, and I'm navigating through um, a lot of linguistic, what to say, dictionary inside my own mind, Wiktionary to say. I'm in my room sitting in front of a gadget, and so there's a more experience reality we all as a blend of the memories that we possess and the imaginations that we have for the future at the same time. Moment to create a tattoo or to create an equal platform of intelligence or equal platform of perception, or what to say. I'm falling short of words here. Okay, I'll try to rephrase this. If we are trying to, as leaders of the society or of the culture that we belong to, if we are trying to create one platform for everybody, a single platform, a plateau platform for everybody, for us to function optimally, I think it's going to fail. It's going to fail precisely because as individuals we belong to different levels of existence, different levels of maturity or of understanding or of perceptual intelligence or of functioning. We do not belong to this one particular level of functioning that a system like democracy provides. I'm speaking about democracy here precisely because this book is mentioning a concept about it. I'm not talking about democracy in this dialogue. I'm talking about this book, about what Nietzsche is trying to convey, or simply put, what I am understanding about what Nietzsche is saying. It's my interpretation. And that is somewhere to try to predict it or try to create something which is static throughout is a concept of senescence, is depicting that an individual is now exhausted or is now uh, done with the uncertainties, is now tired of the day-to-day randomness, the day-to-day, what to say, life, and now just wants to rest. At least this is what he's saying in this particular sentence, that might we not assume in the face of all modern ideas and prejudices of democratic taste that the victory of optimism is now predominant reason, practical and theoretical utilitarianism, like democracy itself, with which it is coeval, is a symptom of waning power, of approaching senescence, of physiological fatigue, and precisely not pessimism. So he's trying to wrap it up in pessimism. He's trying to confine the whole concept of senescence and fatigue and waning power into pessimism. He's defining his own version of pessimism. So it's an interesting perception. And I'm falling in love with this kind of writing in which you are talking about something metaphysical, in which you're talking something about which doesn't have a physical form, something that doesn't has a physical form, yet we're able to comprehend it. That is what the realm of metaphysics deals with. And at the same time, he's able to introspect into his own self. And a lot of writers do that. I'm not saying he's the only one. A lot of writers do that, but this kind of writing is wonderful. Like, wow. So yeah, Birth of Tragedy, Friedrich Nietzsche. I'll resume this in the days to come. And hopefully I'll make the further videos, the further live sessions or the videos that I'll upload a bit shorter. I'm still getting a hang of this platform. I'm still getting used to this. This is new. And I'm trying to self-educate. Apparently this platform has a live chat here. So I think we can chat on this platform as well. Like while I'm reading, you guys can share your views with me. And that later on will convert itself into comments, I think. And here it's showing the number of minutes, 47 minutes it's been, 47 long minutes that you guys would have to bear me with or tolerate me. And yeah, this is an interesting platform. So Friedrich Nietzsche, I'll keep covering. Philosophy, I'll keep covering philosophy. And I'm away from music for some time. I'm exploring this realm and this domain. Yeah, just looking on the whole screen, what else is there? So please don't feel that I'm giving awkward stares on the whole screen. Okay, so I think I've got the gist of this. So I'll catch you guys in the next video, in the next live or in the next upload. Thank you for bearing with me. Thank you for tolerating me. And look forward, if you are interested in philosophy, or if some of your friends or your colleagues or you're known to somebody in your circle is interested in reading or interpreting philosophy. I'm not just here to share what I'm reading here. You can present your views as well, your interpretations as well. It's an open subject. It's a subject of arts. So yeah, I'll just end this video with lots of gratitude, lots of thank you, and bye-bye. Take care.